to this, too. We're sprinkling some baseball as we move it along. Here's Don Mattingly. Donnie Baseball, managing the Marlins. Long time, though, chat. You know, we always enjoy a spring training conversation. Donnie, nice to talk. How are you today, pal? Okay?
Chris, doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, Donnie, and interesting for you now. We got a lot to do here in a short period of time. Listen, you're a good teacher. You know, nobody can teach like you can. You got a lot of young kids. How about this spring training with this Marlins team? What can you tell me about that first? Go ahead.
It's been a good spring for us. Obviously, you see it a lot with young teams and with a lot of spots open for competition that they play well in spring training. So I think we've showed ourselves well in spring training, and these kids have. We found out a lot. And now we get to, take that next step, and that's always a big step because now you're getting full lineups, teams that are preparing for you, and so it's just a different animal when you get to the regular season.
Sure is. Now you're going to look at this. You don't care about win total with this kind of team, right, Donnie? You're just worrying about progress. You want to see how they handle pressure, and you want to win games. Don't get me wrong, but you're looking for progress with your young team with this kind of club more than anything else. Is that correct?
Well, I think, number one, we're going to prepare to win. That's 100%. This is not going to be any different than any other year that you prepare, you go through your process. You have to learn to prepare to win a series, to be prepared for the other team. But along with that, you think about development, and you got to continue to teach. You have to be patient with, mistakes from the standpoint of trying to do too much, mistakes that a young player will make. You're going to be patient with that. But there will be no patience for lack of preparation, not playing the game right, not playing hard. There just won't be any patience for that.
Now, you have had good teams, Donnie, teams that were supposed to win in L.A., and you did. Last year you had a lot of good players in Miami on the cusp a couple of years. You did. Now it's a different kind of scenario for you as the manager. How does the manager – now, listen, you can manage anywhere, but how about managing this kind of crew in spring training compared to some of the other teams that you've done these last 4 or 5 years? What can you tell me about that?
It's a little different, but I think, what we're doing from the standpoint of, we've talked about brand new here. Everything is new. Everything is different. It's going to be different. We can only prove that through time, that we're going to be a consistent organization, an organization that's on the build. And we tell our players, this is your first opportunity to be the building blocks. And if they can't get it done, then there'll be guys coming. And that's the way we've approached it. It's been a fun camp, to be quite honest with you. Guys are here. I think our young guys you're looking at this like, nobody thinks we're going to win or thinks we're going to win very many games, but our young guys are like, hey, hold on a little bit. We can play, and we're going to go show some people that we can play.
How about that? I like that. Now, did you know what was coming here when Jeter and Sherman bought the team, Donnie? Did you get an update before Stanton and Ozuna and Yelich got traded? Did you know exactly what was going on here early in the wintertime?
I had an idea what could happen. I think you never know what exactly was going to happen. But the one thing, I met with Derek before I left, at the end of the season last year, and the one thing he assured me of was that we're going to build this thing, we're going to build it right, we're going to build it from the bottom up, and it's not going to change. We're going to have a plan, and we're going to stick with it. It's not going to get, 4, 5, 6 months down the road, and all of a sudden we're going to go a different direction. We know exactly where we want to go, but there are a few things you felt like almost had to happen. And the one guy you always think about is John Carlo, and I know everybody talked about that trade, but there's just no way for our franchise to have one guy making, 30% of our payroll over the next 10 years and expect that you're going to put a club out there. You can't build a team like that. So we felt like that was something that was going to happen and kind of needed to happen. The other guys were, different reasons, right? And so those were a little different. But for the most part, I knew what was coming.
You did. Now, listen, you can make an argument that the direction of the franchise changes if we don't have that tragedy with Fernandez. Do you think about that at all? You handled that so well a year and a half ago. I know Stanton made that quote here, too. The ace pitcher, it's hard to win without that. It's hard to spend all the money on the other free agents. Did the franchise, looking back, Don, did it really take a different direction entirely with the tragedy with your right-hand pitcher? What can you tell me about that?
I think that's a fair assessment. And Jose was a true ace, and he was a guy that took pressure off everyone else in that pitching staff. And there was talk of doing that last year, doing this same thing that we're doing now a year earlier. But we felt like that position player group needed that deserved an opportunity to go out and be able to win. We went out and we got Volquez, and we made a trade for Dan Straley. We thought hopefully we can put this pitching staff together and they can hold up. We had injuries. The guys that we expected to perform didn't really perform the way they did the year before. And then you just basically had put a Band-Aid on something that really needed to happen probably that year. But we give those guys a shot. Our position players showed up. They did what they needed to do last year. But we, as an organization, we just didn't match up. Our pitching wasn't going to match up with our hitting. And so it was just at some point you're going to have to get out of this hole,
right,
start over, and then do it right from the beginning and then sustain it. Now you have to build the system in a way that every year you got players coming and that you can do it that way, because you truly can't go out and go get 3 or 4 free agents to fill holes.
Can't do it. How about working for your own? 95, you're finishing. Jeter plays a few games. You knew about Jeter. You're out. You're on your way out after a great career, and here comes the young shortstop. And now he's your boss. Is that weird? Can you give me a little rundown about the relationship with you and Derek Jeter after you played with him there his rookie year in 95?
No, it's been comfortable. I think the way I kind of and Derek and I I'd seen Derek in spring trainings, got to play a little bit that last year of mine with him as he was doing the route from AAA and up at different times. But I think we see eye to eye on the way things should go and the way you're supposed to do things. And I always equate it to growing up in the same family. If you have the same parents, you grow up in the same house, you usually have pretty much the same values. And I think with us, we grew up in that Yankee system. This is the way you do things. This is how you go about your business. This is how you're supposed to act as a professional. And so we came from the same background, and so I think we both think alike.
Don, did you put a new set of rules in because you got such a young team compared to, say, some of the teams you've had in the past where you had a more veteran-oriented club? Do you feel as a manager you had to sort of set a little bigger groundwork in this spring training? How about that?
No, we wanted to make sure they knew where the boundaries were, and that's the biggest thing about rules. That's what they're there for. Hey, we can go to here, but we're not going past that. And so you want your group to know, hey, this is where you can go, and there's going to be accountability for it. And I think that's the one thing that from top to bottom now we're looking at this as like, these are what's expected of you as a player. There's expectations of me as a manager. There's expectations of our coaches that we're all going to be held accountable, the players, the coaches, anyone within our system or within our organization is held accountable, and that won't change, and that's really is going to be the biggest difference.
How about the couple of guys that are there who are on a good offensive team in the last couple of years? How about them? Bohr, the first baseman, Riamoto, the catcher. You need them to be a leader, but they're in a big rebuilding mode where maybe if something had broken right the last couple of years, they could have been fighting for a postseason's berth. How about those two guys specifically, Don? Have you had conversations with them? Let me hear your thoughts on that for a sec.
Yeah, we've had talk with all our guys, and those two guys that you mentioned in JB, Justin Bohr and JT are both leaders on our club, and I think they've embraced it. To be honest with you, I know there was talk in the winter about different things. Even with Starling coming over, Starling came over, and he's been great with our young players. Martin Prado's still here. He's going to get healthy. We've got some good-looking young players, but those guys, at least from the standpoint of doing their work, helping the younger guys, all about their business, they've been great with everything we've asked them to do.
And Castro too, huh? He's not bitter he was traded. He's okay with the Marlins, Donnie. How about him for a sec?
I think he is, and he's came out and basically said it, that he was, and you understand it. Honestly, you're coming from a team that's one game away from going to the World Series, and next thing you know, you're kind of on a club that's rebuilding, so that's a shock for any player that's been in the league a little bit. But once I think he got around our guys and seeing what we're all about, and we're laying out a plan of, hey, this is the way we're going to be, and this is the way we're going to do it. he was all in, and he's been great with our young players. Our young players look to him. I can see it already that this guy's a guy that they look at as like he's been there, he's had success, and he's still young. It's not no 35-year-old guy. This is a 28-year-old player that has a chance to be in somewhat in his prime.
No question about it. Can hit and everything else. You think Stanton will handle New York? You know New York well. You know Stanton well. Last year, phenomenal. What's your take on his persona with New York City? What do you see there?
I think he'll be okay. Guys that can do well in the field are going to handle it well. I think the biggest adjustment for Giancarlo is going to be the media and the expectations going from Miami and the fan base and the crowds and things like that compared to New York right now aren't comparable. And that's one thing that until you're there living that through a season and dealing with a little bit of a slump or a down period as a team, once you have to learn to handle that. And once you do that, then he'll be fine.
Ozuna in St. Louis with that great baseball environment. Will that fire him up? Give me your thoughts on him for a sec. What do you see with him?
I think O's just a great player. And, O's a guy I think was disappointed that he was actually moved because I think he loved our organization in our city. But he'll do fine because he can really hit. And I think, he knows Yadier over there is going to take care of him. I know he knows some guys on that ball club, so he'll be fine. But he's a guy that we will definitely miss.
Can D. Gordon play center field? Is he a good enough athlete to do that with Seattle?
I think so. There's been talk for at different times in L.A. and stuff that we felt like he maybe should have been in center. And I think he'll handle it fine. This guy's an extremely good athlete, and he's got a lot better arm than anybody would think. He's got a cannon. So I think he'll do fine.
You do, and Yelich will. Yelich is a hell of a player, right, Don? He'd be good in Milwaukee. I would think he'd be all pumped up with the good team with the Brewers, right?
I think so, and he's in a good hitting ballpark.
Good job.
And, I think Yelly's the one guy that we were disappointed with that, showed that he really didn't want to be part of this. And because we felt like he could have been a building block for us in the future. But the one thing we don't want is guys that really absolutely don't want to be here. And Yelly there was no going back with him. So we got some great players. Brinson's having a great camp. San Diaz, a kid we got at second base, is going to be a player. This guy can really hit. A kid named Monte Harrison is maybe the best athlete that I've ever had, and a guy that has a chance. If he keeps working and continues to get better, this guy is a monster, and he may be one of the best players that are in the league if he continues to improve and catches on.
I know Brinson from Milwaukee. The last kid is from where? What trade did you get him from? Is he up the organization? Which team?
Monte came from Milwaukee also.
Oh, he did?
He was part of that deal.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, absolutely. And and again, I've told guys, this is the best talent that I've ever had in camp as a young player. Now, it's up to him, and we've told him this, and his development is going to be up to him and how hard he works and how quickly he picks things up. But if he picks things up and continues to do the things does the things we think he's capable of, this guy is an absolute star.
You will do a great job with this team. You're good with these kind of guys, Don. You'll do a great job. We'll check in the course of the year. Thanks for so much time today. Good luck. Appreciate you coming on.
Sounds good, Chris. Good talking to you.
Okay, Don Mattingly, the skipper of the Marlins. Thoughts on Milwaukee? How about that? Milwaukee. On Miami, talking with Milwaukee, the players they got from the Brewers. 15 after the hour, we continue. Mad Dog on Lee.